Good afternoon. Rich Nass, Executive Vice President with Open Systems Media, here for this week's installment of 5 Minutes With. This week, we have a special guest in Gene Frantz, who you may recognize as a name from Texas Instruments, although he's no longer with Texas Instruments. But he did put in, I believe it's 39 years. That's a long time. Good afternoon, Gene.
Yes, good afternoon. And let me say that the nice thing about 39 years at Texas Instruments was, one, it didn't seem like a long time, and two, the reason it didn't seem like a long time is I actually recreated myself into a new job about every 2 to 3 years, and so it wasn't one stint of 39, but 13 stints of 3 years.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so let me just finish with I interrupted myself. In Gene's new role, he is the CTO of Octavo Systems, and in his spare time, he's also a professor at Rice University. So why don't we just tell people really quickly what Octavo is, because people may not be familiar. What is it that the company does?
I'll stutter here a minute, because I really want to start out by saying the way we got our name, we were actually organized for about 3 months when another company called Green Source Holdings bought us. And they mostly are working in oil and other things, and what they found interesting about us was our concept of taking electronic systems and doing system-level integration into system-in-package devices. The industry has tended to focus more on system-in-chip or system-on-chip. Let's see, how do I say it? SoC, system-on-chip, rather than system-in-package, because that's just the way the industry was heading. So the company that bought us, Green Source Holdings, changed our name to Octavo, and they got that from when the printing press was created. They created big manuscripts, and there was this neat new invention of how do I fold the manuscript into eighths to create a booklet. And so they called us Octavo based on that idea of us taking large manuscripts of integrated circuits and folding them into a package much smaller that was more useful.
Well,
that's how we got our name.
Yeah, very interesting. So we're clear, we're on the same page. By system in package, you mean multiple die within one manufactured package.
That's correct. And the reason we came to that conclusion was, if you look at what Moore's Law has done to the semiconductor industry, is to drive the technology smaller and smaller, but the unintended consequence is microprocessor processes went one direction, analog processes went another direction, memories went another direction, and so although Moore's Law has driven the size of technology down very well, it's also separated it out so that anytime you want to create a system on a chip, you find that you have to compromise something. If you want a digital chip and put analog on it, you compromise the analog. If you want an analog chip and put digital on it, you're compromising the digital. The only way to get an optimal solution is to take the best of the analog, the best of the digital, and put it all into a substrate, into a system in package.
Okay. So what have you guys been able to do specifically?
Well, the first device out is this thing we're calling the OSD 3358, which was to take the BeagleBone Black device and take the hard part of it, which is how do I connect the ARM to the memory and also to the power management, and design that into the system in package, so that if you wanted to further innovate with the BeagleBone Black, it was pretty easy because we'd already taken care of the hard part of it, and that is how do I get the memory, the ARM, and the power management to work together. And then that left the ability to innovate further onto the individual without having to worry about the hard parts.
Now, why BeagleBone Black? There's lots of development boards you could have chosen.
BeagleBone Black is based on a TI piece of silicon. We're the whole team at Octavo are ex-TI employees, which means we're well known in the industry and even better known inside of TI. And so it was kind of we know how to work with the company, with the people, and the technology. And so that was the simplest answer to go forward with.
Well, in this case, I think simple is really good. That's a very good reason.
Yes. And what we knew was not the underlying technology required to do all those neat things. And so we could take advantage of a little bit more knowledge than most system companies have on integrated circuits to figure out how to do it the best way to make it simple and available.
Okay. So aside from the smaller size, what other differences are there between the system in package and the full-blown development board?
That's a simple and hard question to answer, because what we decided to do is to take the 3358 ball map and bring it out to the SIP ball map almost identical, so that what you were really getting was not a subset of the BeagleBone Black, but what you were getting was a fully resolved ARM processor to design with, which means you were not having to go through the really hard struggle of getting the processor to work correctly. You were just able to use it. And so it's a nice subset of the BeagleBone Black. So it's for the BeagleBone Black, it's nothing more than saying I'm going to put the AM3358, which is the processor underneath, onto my board. Now, how do I make that work without worrying about the memory and the power management?
So without question, I can do my development on the full-blown BeagleBone Black and then do an easy conversion when it comes time to actually take it to prototype. Is that true?
That's right. Yes. And I love it when we as semiconductor guys say to the system designer, all you need to do is make sure you get the bypass capacitors correct around the ARM and the memory, the DRAM. But don't worry about that. That's pretty straightforward. Everybody knows how to do it. Well, not everybody knows how to do it. And there are a good number of system-level people, and I hate to make it sound like an insult, that really don't much consider bypass capacitors that important, and don't worry about it.
Right.
And so it becomes just taking the burden off. And so now, rather than your processor board, your printed circuit board being maybe 6 layers like the BeagleBone Black, you might be able to get it in 4 layers or 2 layers, depending on how creative you are, because you don't have to worry about the hard stuff.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I'm sure our readers will find this very interesting as well. Unfortunately, we have used up our 5 minutes and then a couple extra. So I would like to thank Gene. That was Gene Frantz. He is the CTO of Octavo Systems. I am Rich Nass with Open Systems Media, and I hope you all have a great day.